Hey there, Legal Tea listeners. This is your host, Jenny Roselle, and today is our first real episode of Legal Tea. If you missed last episode, it was really just the trailer, the kind of the premiere episode explaining what Legal Tea is, what we're going to be talking about, the logistics, etc. So that's just a few minutes long if you want to pause this and maybe go listen to that one really quick. So today's topic is estate planning of the rich and the famous. Ooh and ah, right? And today we're going to be talking about Prince, the musician, the great musician Prince. So Prince passed away in April 2016. Somehow, it's already been 5 years. I very distinctly remember when he tragically passed away. Doesn't feel like 5 years ago, but it was April 2016, and he passed away at the young age of 57. And somehow, if you can even believe it, he passed away without an estate plan. He passed away without a will, without a trust. And when I say will, what I mean, for clarification, is a last will and testament. And that is a common estate planning document that I do all the time for clients. And it's an estate planning instrument that really helps get assets distributed to designated beneficiaries in the document after someone passes away. And so Prince, he wasn't married. He had no spouse. He had no children. No really easy default beneficiaries, right? So I meet a lot of people where their estate plan consists of, everything to the spouse first, then everything to the kids, not to the kids, to the grandkids, etc. But Prince, since he wasn't married and he didn't have kids, really, who knows who he would have wanted his assets distributed to and how he would want them distributed. And honestly, that's exactly why people do an estate plan. Because an estate plan accomplishes this of saying who your beneficiaries are, who's in charge, how those beneficiaries inherit, etc. But without an estate plan, without a will, things get a little hairy. So every state, Indiana does. Prince's estate is getting administered in the state of Minnesota, and I know they do. Every state has what are called intestacy statutes, which just is a really fancy name for someone that passes away without a will. So the state law, the state, Indiana code, has its very own default estate plan for people that pass away without a will. And so does Minnesota. So they have a sort of set plan for how assets are distributed if someone passes away and they haven't done any estate planning documents. So that's what a lot of Prince's estate planning scuttlebutt is about. He did leave behind several siblings who will likely end up getting most of his estate, if not all of it, after legal fees, taxes, court costs, etc. But to get those assets distributed to his siblings, his estate had to be opened up in probate court. So can you even imagine? This has got to be one of the largest and most complicated proceedings in Minnesota history. By the way, I have a ton of family that lives in Minnesota, so a little shout out to my Minnesota fam. Okay, so back to probate. So with probate, there is a piece of the process that allows any individual to make a claim on the estate to say, hey, I'm an heir. So anybody can say, hey, I'm an heir of Prince. I should be a beneficiary of his estate. So while he had siblings as his likely closest blood relatives, I'm sure you know where this is going. So shortly after the probate case was filed, boy, don't you know, the people were starting to come out of the woodwork. Out of the woodwork, I tell you, trying to say that they were related to Prince in some type of way. So, aka, they get a cut of those his estate assets. So the stinky part is that determining the assets, and specifically the heirs, all the costs associated with that is charged against the estate, even if the claim is baseless. So I could, Jenny Roselle, say, hey, I'm an heir of Prince, and potentially have the estate have to pay to disprove that claim. So think of that the next time you hear Purple Rain, right? Oh my goodness, that royalty that royalty probably just paid some lawyer bill. I digress. I can make that sort of comment since I'm a lawyer. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about numbers a little bit. So there are reports all over the place on the value of Prince's estate. I've seen as low, that sounds comical to say. I've seen as low as 100 million as of like his total estate value. And I've seen much, much higher as like 300 million even. Maybe more, maybe less. According to Star Tribune, as of January 2021, the IRS and the representatives for the estate, so let's call it like the executors or the personal representatives, they were actually disputing. So the IRS and the estate were disputing the value of the estate. Because you know that Uncle Sam wants his piece of Prince's estate pie. And right, the more the estate value, the more Uncle Sam wins. The less the estate value, the less Uncle Sam wins. So you get the point. According to a blog written by an attorney named Grant Gainstad, I hope I didn't butcher that. So he wrote a blog in May 2020. So keep that in mind that was more than a year ago from today in mid-2021. He shared that at that point, legal bills were around $10 million. Comerica, so they are the ones that are serving as the estate representative, the executor. They have spent $45 million in attempting to get the estate settled. And there's an enormous tax bill once they figure out what the estate value is. And it's probably going to be about 40% of the value due to the feds and probably 15 to 20% due to the state of Indiana. So much money. That is so much money that I can't even comprehend. That could have very likely been saved with appropriate estate planning. Okay, so a little bit more about Comerica. So in a probate case, there's always someone leading the charge. Sometimes people call them executors or administrators. In Indiana, we call them personal representatives. But anyway, the Minnesota court ruled that Comerica would serve as the administrator of Prince's estate. So what that means is that Comerica is serving as a professional fiduciary, and of course, they have their fees as well. According to Mike Trawick's blog, and all these sources I'm referencing are, the source links are in the episode notes. According to Mike Trawick's blog, who's also an attorney in Michigan, subsequent to Comerica getting appointed as the administrator of the estate, Comerica struck a deal. Your brain is just gonna explode when I share this. So Comerica struck a deal to stream Prince's music. And if you're even the tiniest fan of Prince, you know that he constantly fought against streaming his music. So while Comerica is tasked with operating in the best interests of the estate, Does that mean more money? Right? Does that mean that they're maybe obligated to put this in the streaming world so that the estate gets more money? It breaks my heart to see this has happened to Prince, someone who would have never wanted his music streaming. He made that so clear. But hey, he could have done some estate planning and specifically said, hey, people, no streaming my stuff after I pass. But he didn't. So where do things stand today? Well, the biggest thing going on right now is determining the value of the estate. So like I shared, the IRS wants it worth more. Comerica, as the estate's representative, wants it worth less. And as do the siblings, because that means less money going to the IRS. According to an article in JD Supra, the IRS, quote, officially determined, quote, that his estate was worth an estimated $163 million, while Comerica and the estate reported $82 million on the estate tax return. So the difficult thing here in Prince's estate is that sometimes assets are legitimately hard to value. One would think it's easy to come up with, like, X is the value of my home. I have Y in my bank account. But think of, like, tangible and intangible things. Like, what is the value of Prince's music? Or maybe in the real world, you can buy Waterford Crystal brand new for hundreds of dollars, but if you sell it through an estate at an auction, maybe you get $60. So what's the value? That's what's going on right now with Prince's estate. What in the world is all Prince things valued at? So that JD Supra article further provides us direction with how this estate will get valued. So they claim that the United States Tax Court will assist with what they call, like, refereeing the experts. So this will likely take years, people. I mean, years upon years it'll take. There will be, much like a trial, much like, any kind of court, there'll be discovery requests. There'll be depositions. I mean, like a full-blown trial setting, all to just determine the estate value. In the event the IRS and the estate, so Comerica, in the event they cannot agree to a value, which is very possible, the tax court will be the ultimate decision maker. And basically, they can either adopt one of the parties' arguments, or they could form their own. They're it's completely in their discretion. So it's unlikely Prince's siblings will see money really anytime soon, and from like an inheritance standpoint. After all, what if all this legally gobbledygook takes years, takes lots of money, and it will take lots of money. It's already taken lots of money. Comerica is likely going to want to keep control of the money to afford the lawyers, the professionals, the accountants, them, as in them serving in this kind of administrator role. They aren't serving for free. Hey, if I was Comerica's attorney, I'd say no one gets a penny until things are straightened out, bills are paid, and we're in a much better position. So what do we learn from old Prince? Well, I hope you learned a few little interesting tidbits. I definitely learned some things through the research for this episode. But the big takeaway here, and it probably goes without being said, is do your darn estate plan. I know it's not fun. I know it's not fun to talk about. I know it's not fun to spend money on. I know it's not fun at all. But it's so, so important. It's among the best gifts that you can leave your family after you pass. And by the way, that's going to be Legal Tea Podcast's hashtag. It's going to be our tagline, our hashtag do your estate plan. Because after all, the purpose of this podcast is to provide awareness and solid information on my little estate and elder law world. So yes, I understand Prince's estate is crazy big and way more money than I can certainly ever even begin to dream of, unless I hit the lottery. But to hit the lottery, I have to play, and I don't play. But the point is, my point is, estate planning is for everyone, for the young, for the old, for the not so rich, for the rich. You get the point. And there are ways to ensure your estate gets distributed to who you want and how you want, but you're only going to accomplish that if you #do your estate plan. Okay, so that's it for Prince and this episode of the Estate Planning of the Rich and Famous. Next week's episode is going to be a cautionary tale, a real life case or two that I've worked on. So this isn't like Prince, right? So next week's episode is not going to be like Prince. This isn't some fancy-dancy celebrity estate planning mistake. I guess fancy-dancy celebrity. Cautionary tales will be about real people like you and me. Families like yours and mine. And they're called cautionary tales for a reason, because I don't want you to let happen what happened to them. So tune in for next episode. And until then, take care and talk to you soon.